Have you ever noticed that when you're hungry, your thoughts don't just slow down, they change their tone? Small worries feel heavier, emotions feel closer to the surface, and the mind seems to circle the same thoughts again and again. This experience is not imagined. It is not psychological weakness. It is not a lack of discipline. It is a biological shift inside the brain. When the stomach is empty, the body does not simply wait for food. It sends signals upward to the brain, changing how thinking and emotion are organized. One of the most important signals involved is a hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin is often described as the hunger hormone, but that description is incomplete. Ghrelin does not only increase appetite, it directly affects the brain, especially regions involved in motivation, emotion, and memory. As ghrelin levels rise, the brain receives a message of scarcity. Resources are limited. Efficiency becomes more important than comfort. This message reshapes neural priorities. At the same time, blood glucose begins to decline. Glucose is the brain's primary energy source. Even a modest drop affects how brain regions communicate with one another. The brain responds by reallocating energy. Not all areas receive the same support. Systems essential for immediate survival become dominant. The prefrontal cortex is one of the regions affected by this shift. This part of the brain is responsible for planning, impulse control, reasoning, and emotional regulation. When energy availability drops, the prefrontal cortex becomes less influential. Meanwhile, the limbic system becomes more active. The limbic system governs emotion, threat detection, and instinctive reactions. This shift explains why hunger feels emotional rather than logical. Thinking changes direction. The mind becomes more sensitive to problems. Uncertainty feels more threatening than usual. Thoughts gain urgency. This is where overthinking often begins. A hungry brain is biased toward unresolved issues. It repeatedly returns to the same concerns, searching for closure. This looping is not a flaw in reasoning. It is a survival-oriented pattern. Unresolved problems once meant danger during scarcity. Emotional amplification occurs alongside this cognitive narrowing. Anger feels sharper. Frustration rises faster. Sadness feels deeper and heavier. This amplification is not random. It happens because emotional signals are less filtered when regulatory systems are quiet. The limbic system's output reaches consciousness more directly. Memory also changes during hunger. Emotionally charged memories are recalled more easily. Neutral or distant details fade into the background. This creates a sense that certain thoughts are more important than they actually are. The brain treats them as urgent. They feel demanding. They repeat. The combination of narrowed attention, emotional amplification, and biased memory creates mental intensity. Many people describe this as feeling mentally noisy when hungry. Thoughts feel louder. Inner dialogue feels harsher. Importantly, this state is temporary. It is tied to chemistry, not identity. The brain is operating under a different set of constraints. The hungry brain is not optimized for reflection, patience, or social harmony. It is optimized for efficiency under scarcity. This distinction matters. When hunger is misunderstood, people judge themselves harshly. They assume their reactions reveal their true personality. In reality, they reveal a temporary neural configuration. The brain has not lost intelligence. It has changed priorities. Comfort, empathy, and long-term thinking step back while urgency steps forward. Understanding this foundation is essential. Without it, hunger is misinterpreted as emotional weakness or moral failure. With it, hunger is seen for what it is, a biological state that reshapes thought and emotion. This state does not mean the brain is broken. It means the brain is adaptive. It responds to internal conditions just as it was designed to do. Once hunger is recognized as a temporary brain state, the next step is learning how to function inside it without letting it take control. This is not about ignoring hunger or pushing through it. It is about stabilizing thought and emotion while the body is in a low-energy state. One of the most effective ways to regain balance during hunger is breathing regulation. Hunger subtly activates stress response circuits. Slow breathing directly calms those circuits. When breathing becomes slower and deeper, Signals travel through the vagus nerve. This reduces emotional intensity and quiets the limbic system. The body receives a message of safety even before food arrives. Breathing does not remove hunger. It reduces how loudly hunger speaks through emotion. This creates space between sensation and reaction. Decision timing is another critical tool. Hunger biases the brain toward urgency. Decisions made in this state often feel absolute and irreversible. The key skill is delay, not avoidance, but postponement. By delaying decisions, you allow regulatory systems to return once energy is restored. This applies to conversations, commitments, spending, and judgments. What feels necessary now often feels optional later. Time changes perception when hunger fades. Memory reframing is equally important. When hungry, the brain recalls emotionally charged memories more easily. These memories feel more important and more personal than they actually are. Reframing begins by recognizing state-dependent memory. The memory itself has not changed. The intensity comes from the brain state. A simple internal shift helps. Instead of asking, "Why does this bother me so much?" the question becomes, "Would this feel the same after eating?" This reframing reduces identification with the thought. It creates psychological distance. Distance reduces emotional pressure. Emotional control during hunger does not mean suppression. Suppression increases internal tension. Control means containment. Lowering external stimulation helps significantly. Bright lights, loud sounds, and fast movement amplify hunger effects. Calm environments reduce sensory load. Language also matters. During hunger, internal dialogue becomes harsher and more absolute. Words like always and never and can't appear more often. Softening language changes how the brain interprets experience. "This is unbearable" becomes, "This feels intense right now." The experience remains honest, but the brain no longer treats it as a threat. Physical pacing is another stabilizer. Moving slowly instead of rushing reduces stress signals. Fast movement tells the brain something is wrong. Hydration also plays a role. Mild dehydration intensifies hunger effects. Drinking water can reduce cognitive strain even before eating. Another practical approach is task selection. During hunger, tasks requiring patience and empathy become harder. Tasks requiring focus and simplicity become easier. Matching tasks to state reduces frustration. This prevents unnecessary emotional conflict. It preserves mental energy. Social regulation matters as well. During hunger, sensitivity to tone increases. Neutral comments can feel critical. Reducing social exposure during intense hunger prevents misinterpretation. This is not isolation. It is strategic self-management. Routine strengthens all of these tools. Predictable eating patterns reduce uncertainty signals. The brain feels safer when it knows relief is coming. Finally, reflection after hunger passes is essential. Notice how thoughts and emotions change. This contrast builds insight. Over time, repeated observation creates emotional literacy. You begin to recognize hunger-driven thoughts without believing them. This is not detachment. It is clarity. These tools do not eliminate hunger. They prevent hunger from hijacking behavior. They allow you to remain functional, calm, and intentional while energy is low. When we step back and look at hunger from a longer timeline, something important becomes clear. Hunger is not just a momentary discomfort. It is one of the conditions that shaped the human mind itself. For most of human history, thinking did not happen in comfort. It happened between meals, during uncertainty, under pressure. The brain did not evolve expecting constant satisfaction. From this perspective, hunger becomes more than a challenge. It becomes a training ground, a state that quietly shapes patience, emotional depth, and mental endurance over time. Wisdom does not emerge from constant ease. It emerges from learning how to remain balanced when internal conditions are unstable. Hunger creates that instability naturally. Over time, repeated exposure to manageable hunger teaches the brain something subtle, that sensations rise and fall, that intensity does not last forever, that reactions are not commands. This is where wisdom begins. Not in controlling the world, but in understanding internal states without being ruled by them. Hunger offers a direct lesson in this skill. Long-term brain adaptation works through repetition. Each time the brain experiences hunger and then relief, it learns timing, it learns patience, it learns that urgency does not always require immediate action. Neuroscience is beginning to explore how these repeated cycles influence brain structure. Early research suggests that adaptive stress may strengthen neural flexibility. The brain becomes better at switching between states without losing stability. This matters for the future. As modern life reduces natural challenges, the brain receives fewer opportunities to practice regulation. Comfort becomes constant. Tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Understanding hunger reframes this imbalance. It reminds us that the brain is not designed for non-stop ease. It is designed to adapt, recover, and learn through contrast. From a future neuroscience perspective, researchers are studying how metabolic states affect aging brains. There is growing interest in how controlled stressors influence cognitive longevity. Hunger is one of those stressors. This does not suggest deprivation, it suggests respect for biological rhythms. The brain thrives on cycles, not extremes. On a deeper level, hunger also reshapes meaning. When food is absent, attention shifts inward. Values become clearer, priorities rearrange themselves. Many people report moments of insight during hunger, not because hunger is magical, but because distractions fade. The mind becomes simpler. This simplicity allows reflection. It creates space for questions that comfort often hides. What matters? What doesn't? Across cultures, hunger has been linked to reflection, humility, and perspective, not as punishment, but as a reminder of limits. In a future-focused society, this understanding may change how we design life. Work schedules may align better with biological rhythms. Education may respect cognitive energy cycles. Mental health may be approached more holistically. Hunger teaches something modern life often forgets: that the mind and body are not separate systems. Thought is shaped by chemistry. Emotion is shaped by energy. Recognizing this reduces self-judgment. It replaces blame with understanding. Understanding creates compassion toward oneself, toward others, toward human limitation. The hopeful message is not that hunger is good or bad. It is that hunger is meaningful. It reveals how adaptable the brain truly is. A hungry mind is not a broken mind. It is a mind operating under different rules. Rules shaped by survival, resilience, and learning. When we understand those rules, we stop fighting ourselves. We respond instead of reacting. We wait instead of rushing. Over time, this awareness builds wisdom, not loud wisdom, quiet wisdom, the kind that knows intensity will pass, the kind that trusts regulation over impulse, the kind that remains steady even when the body is not. And that is the deeper insight hunger offers, not just about food, but about the human mind itself.